At 7:15, Chair, and I've started the recording.
Okay, ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go, yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December meeting of Brixton Parish Council. The meeting is being recorded, as you're aware, and it's by video conferencing. If the internet drops out, we'll try and re-establish contact. If not, we'll rearrange as soon as practical. Do we have any apologies for the meeting, Peter?
Yes, apologies from Councillor Peacock and Councillor Barrett.
Okay. Do we all accept those apologies? Do I have a proposal and seconder? Thank you, Jackie. Seconder for anybody?
Yep, I'll second them.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Does any member have any declaration of interest on the agenda items? Okay.
No.
Item 4 is to agree and sign the minutes of the previous meeting, which was on the 26th of November, which was paper A. Does anybody have any comments or like to propose that we accept it?
I propose we accept them.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Do we have a second for that?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Okay, all those in favour of accepting them?
Yeah.
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 Everybody? Stuart, are you abstaining or?
No, I said yes.
Okay, sorry, one picture's got not moving.
Yeah, sorry. Actually,
You get that, Peter?
Yes, I did, thank you, yeah.
Yeah. Item 5 is the public open forum session. Nick, do you? Sorry, Jackie.
Oh, I was just going to ask if Tara could put a camera on, because I think most people don't know who she is.
Yes, yes, it would be nice to do.
Hi, sorry, yes, bear with me 1 second. You all see me?
Yeah.
Yes, I can now, yes.
Thank you.
Oh, hello there, I can see you, Cara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Cara started on Monday. She had an interview about 2 weeks ago, and she was keen to get a feel for the council this side of Christmas and then start in the new year with all that induction knowledge behind her. So at the moment we just had a short induction, a few tasks to get us going, and she's finding her way around, going through minutes and websites and whatever else. So yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
yeah, welcome.
Indeed.
Really nice to have you on board, and hopefully you'll be a great benefit to Peter, who has been really struggling. So
We've got a long
I'm
list.
sure he has loads to do. Okay. Yeah, public open forum session. Nick, did you want to say anything on this, or are you just sitting in for the meeting? Or
Thank you, Chair. I think the only thing I'd like to report is that it was a great privilege to second the vote to release the 106 money to the Parish Council. And I think that pays great credit to the way in which the Council have worked with the developers to maximise the return for the village. And I hope that the Parish Council has some fantastic thoughts and plans in order to use the money to benefit the village. So well done to everybody, and it was great to be able to do that on your behalf. Thank you.
well, thank you. There's a couple of reports coming up a bit later on in the meeting about those projects, Nick. So if you want to listen to those, please feel free.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Jonathan.
Yes, evening. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, evening, everyone. A couple of things, really, just a quick update. The Street Watch activity is ongoing. We had a briefing on Tuesday evening. There's a few more bits of information I need to gather, and we're going to reconvene again in the new year. And so no real progress to report on that, other than a group of the volunteers that are interested, of about 8, came together, and more to report hopefully in the new year when we have a second meeting on that. The second point probably is just I'm in the process of writing up some notes from our discussions that we had with the cooperative, which two people from here, Tom and Stephen, were on that meeting. So again, really, I guess I'll share those notes once they're completed, but overall seemed to be a fairly positive conversation, given the situation that we face. It's not really going to change anything dramatically, but we're optimistic that maybe we might get some things that will lessen impacts, basically. So again, watch this space. I'll share those notes with you, Stephen, once I've written them. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Peter, Jonathan, if you could send them to Peter, then Peter can distribute them to all the council.
Yeah, I will. No problem.
Okay. Sandra?
I just wanted to, you've kind of touched on it already, but it would be interesting for Nick Bunting to stay for the agenda item where we're discussing the recommendations from the working group for the section 106 for the outdoor provision of sports.
Okay.
I'm happy to stay chair as long as I can, as you're aware, on a phone, so I've already dropped out once, but I will do my best to stay on the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I don't think we have anybody else in doing. No. Okay, moving on to part 1 for decisions, which brings us nicely on to St David's Play Park and Vehicle Working Group, which is paper B. Sandra, do you want to run us?
Yeah, so can I just ask if councillors have actually managed to read this report?
Yes, well, I've read the report and I've had a quick look through all the other supporting documents, but obviously there's a lot there to take in a short space of time. But
Right, okay, because I think the working group is hoping that that these documents have been read and that we can progress this brief in order to submit it. But we do need to. I've already been in touch with Kevin and a planning officer, Anna Lee, with regards to planning permission. So it would be useful if people have actually read these documents.
I was under the impression we'd got until the 11th of January to make our comments on all the specifications. And
why were you under that impression?
It's in the recommendation, Sandra.
Yeah.
It's got the 28th of January on page B, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Parish Council submit any comments on the draft specifications to the clerk no later than the 11th of January.
Right, okay.
Because we've got to take any comments into account, then take them back to that working group, and then bring the final version to the full council on the night it agrees the budget.
Yeah. No. What I meant was I was hoping that we could actually progress the paperwork that we've submitted tonight. I'm hoping that we can actually, progress that, because there are a number of things that we need to do. I mean, planning permission itself is going to delay things by 8 weeks, and I do think that it would be better for the Parish Council to apply for planning permission, because that would actually save on both time and costs, because I think that we are exempt from costs. So there's no point submitting any briefs for tenders until we have secured planning permission, unless we put a caveat in the brief to say please understand that this is subject to planning permission.
That's the normal way things are done, Sandra. That a planning application has been made, but the scheme is obviously dependent on that being approved.
Yeah. All I'm saying is that the working group is not keen to drag this out for months and months and months. So, has anyone actually read these documents or not?
I say I've read them briefly, but having sort of seen a note about the 11th, I thought it was more beneficial just to scan through them, then sit down.
Yeah, I thought the same actually. I scanned through them, Chair.
Compare it to
perhaps after Christmas, and obviously during the first week of January. If I've got any comments or observations, I'd circulate them then. So apologies if that's not the case.
As I say, from the recommendations, that was certainly what was highlighted. Stuart?
Can I just ask if there's anything in particular Sandra would like to pick up on at this point? There are a lot of pages here. I scanned through it as well. And as others have acknowledged, taking all of that in and discussing it in length in this meeting might be problematic. But if there is any burning issue or anything that Sandra would like to bring to our attention, can I suggest that that's done so that we can actually move on?
I think what would be nice is to try and nail the funding.
The funding doesn't affect the planning application.
No, but it does affect the brief in a sense, really.
I thought we went through this last time. The funding is whatever the Section 106 money is to start with.
If you look at 5.1 of the document, it says request contribution from surplus within the general reserve for play equipment, 45,000. So that is something that we touched on last time, and it's obviously been brought up. It's been brought up again because the working group has looked at funding, and a lot of the Section 106 money, it seems to be directed towards landscaping, which is £65,000, and then we've got, I think, 105 or 103 for the provision of outdoor sports, which is obviously the MUGA. And then we've got sort of 35,000 for the children's play area. Now, within that £108,000, we could obviously build the MUGA. We could include the cost of the fence, because if we want the fence to be compliant with noise pollution, then it's going to be very, very costly. So I think what would be nice, and I've gone through a shopping list of play equipment. The play equipment alone to regenerate that whole play area is going to be in excess of £35,000, and that's just the provision. That's just buying the play equipment. We then need to install it, which will probably cost another £35,000, and we haven't got that additional £35,000 in this budget because the Section 106 money is very clear where it needs to be spent. So it's about having in excess of £40,000 sitting in general reserves, which again I would like to request that it's spent on an inclusive children's play area.
Last time it was going to be spent on the MUGA.
No, we've got enough money for the MUGA because it's £105,000 for outdoor sports, and the children's play area isn't regarded as outdoor sports. The MUGA is, but a single MUGA with all of the maybe the storage and the line work, etc., isn't going to exceed £50,000, which means that we've got £60,000 sitting there. Now that £60,000 we could spend on the fencing going around the Mooga and extend it down the north side of the children's play area. What we haven't got, what we're deficient in that Section 106 money, is a very clear allocation for the children's play area. We've got, from the SIL and all the other bits and bobs, it looks as though we can scrape together £35,000, but that will literally buy us the equipment. It won't allow us to install it. And I think this is our opportunity now to actually create something that's very special in Brixworth, and that's truly inclusive.
I thought the open space, parks and gardens, was for the play area, which was £65,000.
That's landscaping.
No.
The Section 106 money is for parks and gardens, so we can use it for benches, litter bins, paths, landscaping, but not for play equipment. We're using the SIL money for the play equipment.
I thought that was
and the allocation from the money from the reserve budget that we've put aside for play equipment as well.
£7,000.
Yes, which is about we're putting 7,000 a year away for that.
So, okay, so the outdoor sport, does that include play equipment as well then?
No,
I spoke
with Sport England yesterday, and I asked for a definition of sport, and I said, could it include children's play equipment, which does involve physical activity? And he said, children's play equipment is physical activity. It is not sport. So therefore, you cannot define a children's play area as outdoor sport. So I have tried to find somehow how we can take the 105,000 designated to outdoor sport and divert that money to the children's play area, but we can't, not unless we've got two options. One is to put in an application for the modification of Section 106 money to the District Council and give a case for that. Two is to take the £40,000 from general reserves that we're sitting on, which needs to be spent on a project, and put that to the children's play area.
I think we ought to get some prices before we decide how much we need to spend. I always thought the Muga as well would include the fence around the Muga. So you had said last time that with regards to the fence, you could actually pay for the fence out from the budget. But actually, that was the cricket ball fence.
Yeah.
Not the fence around the Muga.
Right. But looking at it now, okay, we could actually, that fence could cost in and around £60,000, and that's how much we've got. The Mooga costing around about £50,000, including storage, including floodlights. Then you've got the fence on top of that. I think that we will very easily spend £105,000. We
Chair,
can.
if you're happy for me to contribute.
Sorry, Nick, yeah.
Yeah, I support the approach Sandra's making, because if you don't put the fence around the Mooga, as someone who's built 200 plus 3G pitches in his career, there's no point doing the Mooga. If you don't put the fence up, the Mooga will just be destroyed. And it's quite clear you need the Mooga, the fence, and then you need the play equipment. And I think what Sandra's really pushing for, which I would support, is the philosophy of this is what we should have, and if you agree it, let's get some prices, and then release reserves to fund it as and when you know the thing. But not to have the fence. You might as well not bother with the Mooga at all, Chair. Thank you.
Nick, no one's saying we shouldn't put a fence around the Muga. What we've had is an approach from the cricket club for another fence, which would stop a cricket ball going into the children's play area, which is a completely different thing altogether. So no, I would expect a 3 metre high fence to go around the Muga as part of the Muga cost.
What we've got at the moment, excuse me, through the chair, what we've got at the moment is that we have actually got a 4 metre fence, okay, but it was installed without any noise dampening system put in it. What we've now got is an opportunity to correct that, because we have had members of the public complain about it being noisy, especially when a football is being kicked against it from St David's, not from within the Muga, but from outside of the Muga. So I think we put some dampening buttons in, etc., and it's made some difference. But actually, you know, it needs to be done properly. Now, I've put in the brief that ideally we would like to reuse the fence, because it's a perfectly good fence. Whether we can actually make it into a fence that's not as noisy as it is a different question. And that is in the brief. But I think that what we need to do, having researched this, is I think we need to expect that the fence alone, which is compliant, is going to cost in the region of £60,000, possibly as much as £70,000.
My thoughts on the existing tennis court fence you're on about, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are two. Sorry, Stephen. There are two. There's the rickety one, which is inside. Okay, and then there's the newer one that's on the outside, which is 3 meters tall.
Yeah. I'm not convinced the tennis court fence is suitable for a Muga, because, as you say, the ball gets hit against it, and they tend to be a lot stronger of construction than a chain link fence.
I'm not suggesting a chain link fence.
No, I thought that's what the tennis court one was.
There are two fences. There's the rickety chain link fence, which is on the inside.
Yeah.
And then on the outside, there's a newer fence. And that is not a chain link fence.
I'm struggling to visualise that one, but anyway.
Instead of being diamonds,
yeah,
it's squares. Peter, have you got a photograph of it?
I'm just looking now. I thought I'd just dip out and see if I can find a
Yeah.
of it.
Jackie?
Can I just ask, what is the issue? I mean, I don't think we need to discuss in detail the fence at this stage. We know we need a 4 metre fence, right? And there is money for that. The issue is, can we use the reserve towards the play area? We've looked, and I personally have contacted the school and looked at the number of children with disabilities in Brixworth, of which there are 10% just at the school. There are others that don't attend the school. In order to make that playing field all-inclusive, we need good quality play equipment that a range of children with physical and other disabilities can use. That is going to cost us more than the 30,000 that we might have. So the question is, can we put, in principle, that money towards the play area?
Right. So that's one bit of fence. But if you go around the corner, we've got the 4 metre fence, haven't we? Which was installed when Emma was our clerk.
Yes.
So all that's moving. Jackie, do you want to just carry on? Sorry.
That was my issue. Why? I don't know what the reluctance is to use money that is there for a project when we have a very good project which is all-inclusive for the children of Brixworth. I don't understand that. Could somebody explain it?
Elaine first, then Kevin.
Elaine?
Yeah.
I think we definitely, obviously, inevitably, that it goes without saying that we should have an inclusive play area. But when I voted on this project in the first place, I understood that 65,000, and I've just looked at the minutes, and it isn't clear from that. But I remember from the discussion, I was voting on that 65,000 as a total budget of 110,000 to be used for the play area and landscaping. And the way we discussed it at the time was that 65,000 could be used for the play park. So if that's changed now, that makes me a bit cross because that wasn't what I voted for. And you know, there were other projects. I keep coming back to this, but there were other projects that we didn't give money to. And so that's the first thing. I'd like clarification on that. And also, Sandra, through you, Chair. I'm just trying to understand what you said, because in the either the minutes or the budget or the notes, I can't quite remember which one it is, you talk about the £45,000 in reserves. Are they earmarked for play equipment? In which case, obviously, it says, in the minutes it says request contributions and surplus within the general reserves for play equipment, but you're just talking about the surplus. It's nothing that we've already earmarked for play equipment yet.
No. The only money that's been earmarked for play equipment is the £7,000. We came up with the £45,000 because we've got £100,000 sitting in general reserves, which is actually more than what we need. And I understand that the finance working group did actually decide a few meetings ago that the general reserves needs to be spent on the project. And I think, as you know, I will repeat what Jackie is saying. We're sitting here, very frustrated because we do not understand how, why that money would not go towards this opportunity to build a children's play area, which is truly, truly inclusive. Brixworth Primary School has 525 children. Jackie has found out that 10% of those children have special educational needs. Okay, so it doesn't take an awful lot of maths to work out that's 50 children. But those 50 children that go to Brixworth Primary. Okay, so there will be other children as well. Now this is a lot of money, and if we don't get this right, Brixworth Parish Council will be absolutely ridiculed because they will see that we've got 100,000 or 150,000, and they're going to go, what exactly have you actually spent this money on? Okay, because they don't understand that a slide costs £7,000 because they think they can go to Toys R Us and buy one for £300. Okay, I mean, I can sit here and I can quote the Equality Act at you. I'm more than happy, but actually the Equality Act does actually state that that playgrounds need to be up to standard for inclusivity, and the current playground that we have at the moment is not up to that standard, and this is our opportunity to be up to a standard and have something to be proud of. And Jackie and I, if I can speak to you, Jackie, we're sitting here going, we have the money there, this is the opportunity, why are we begging for it? Unless you've got a plan to spend £45,000 on something else that you haven't told us about.
Okay, Kevin was next. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I've got no issues on some of the things that's being said. I understand that, because speaking from the heart, shall we say. I've got one or two questions. Mine is, I think I said this in my note back to you, Sandra. You can put in planning permission, but you've got to have the specification. Now, at the moment, now you can put me right, I don't think we've got a specification because, for instance, you mentioned we're going to light the Muga. So that's lighting posts. So that will definitely need planning permission. That will need locating and placing on a drawing to say where those are going. Now, I don't think we've got that. Again, might be wrong, but I don't think we have. I've not seen the specification for all the bits of kit, which is fine, the playground stuff, and that's all right. The exception there is that, how do I put it? Again, where it's going to go, because that is part and parcel of planning. because you're digging up the area, that's why we've got to do it. The other one is mentioned that, again, I'm not sure if I picked it up right, when you mentioned Sports England and play equipment, it will be Daventry who says where the money can go. As far as I know, the money for the outside area can go on play equipment. I admit we'd have to put something extra to it depending on the specification, but that's not sport. I think you said Sports England, but that's not their decision. It's Daventry.
Kevin, sorry. What I was asking for from Sports England, because the Section 106 money, is very, very specific on how the money is to be spent. I was trying to find out whether a play area, children's play area, could be regarded as outdoor sports, because the Section 106 money says it needs to be spent on outdoor sports. And I was just trying to find out whether outdoor sports, a children's area, could be defined as an outdoor sport, and Sport England said no.
Yeah, I think and I think you're right, Sandra. Daventry might have a different take on that. Thank you. Yeah. Take on that, because I've spoken to several people at Daventry, and they're going, well, if you're doing it for this, obviously you can't spend 65,000 on a park when you actually have only got one. If the truth be known, and that's down at not Stanard's Way, beg your pardon, Tantree Way, isn't it, and down there. So they said, yes, you could look at that, but that's just moving the money around, if the truth be known. Mine is, I'm just desperate to see the specification. The fence, again, like to see. This, just to prove I did read it, the surface, tarmac, I'm going, that doesn't sound right to me. I'd have thought that would have been whatever these G things are called these days. Someone else can put me right on that. But you want a surface which is going to be right for different sports. And I think tarmac is not the right surface. Obviously, you know something between the price differential between that and another surface. Perhaps Nick could put me right on that. But I think it's got to be the right surface. And if that means we've got to spend another sum of money, then we've got to spend a sum of money to make sure we've got the right thing fit for purpose. So that's where I'm coming from. And again, just for me, are we actually in these figures looking at putting lighting in?
Okay. So...
or is it being costed? Sorry.
Okay. So... I think the first thing is that this is a little bit chicken and egg scenario, and I've discussed it with Jackie, and I've discussed it with Peter, and I've obviously touched on it with you, Kevin. And I think the easiest thing to do is to I think the route that we're taking here is that we can issue the brief once the full council has agreed it, to get the ideas in for both the Muga and for the play area, with the caveat saying that this is going to planning and it may not be passed. It may not be passed, and therefore a contract may not be awarded. That's fairly standard, and I think it's what these companies expect us to see. So that's absolutely fine. From that, we may come back with 5 or 8 different ideas, and then as a parish council, and I think it needs to go out to to consultation with the local primary school, etc. We can decide on which one we like, and we can actually have a look at the shopping list, because everything will be itemised. So we will know exactly how much the equipment is going to cost. We will know how much that equipment will cost to install. We will know how much it will cost to resurface the disused playing area. We will know how much floodlights cost. We will know how much fencing costs. Because that is what is in the brief. They have got to cost every single one of those items out. If we find from that there is a shortfall from one fund to the next, then maybe, with Daventry's consent, we can look at taking some money from there and putting it there. I don't know. With regards to the choice of the surface, the working group has gone through this extensively, and we did actually even consider having two different Moogers next to each other, one with macadam and one with synthetic grass. Unfortunately, there isn't one surface, and we've got to also remember this is a community space. Okay, this isn't a space where I play my tennis and therefore I have a certain standard that I expect from my tennis club. This is a community space, so there are going to have to be compromises. And I think we've also got to remember that the Section 106 money is for the provision as well as the enhancement of sport. And I truly believe that Brixworth more than provides for football in the village, more than provides. But what it doesn't provide for is other sports. And those other sports are netball and tennis. Now you could turn around and say, but we haven't got netball and tennis. Well, no, of course we haven't got netball and tennis because there's nowhere for them to play. Equally, what tarmac it also allows is disability sports. So you can have someone playing wheelchair netball or wheelchair basketball. You cannot have that on synthetic grass. Hockey, when I spoke to the local representative for the Northants Hockey Association, I said, what do you want, Andy? And he said, do you know what? We don't care. We're not fussy. We'll play on anything. So I think we've got to remember that this is a community sport, a community space, and that's why we've actually gone down the tarmac route, because it will provide sports within the village that isn't provided for already. And I'm sure there was a third thing that you asked, Kevin, but I can't remember what.
I'm not sure now, Chair.
Elaine, you've got your hand up. I don't know whether it's... Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I think Kevin's clarified it. Actually, it was. Can we use the £65,000 doesn't seem to be included in the budgets on the notes, and yet I believe we voted for it. I think Kevin said that we can use that money. If that's the case, I don't know why we would still need the 45,000. That's all.
We're going to get bogged down here. I think what we need to do is we all make our comments back to Peter as the recommendations, and then see where we are next meeting, which is what the recommendation is. And that can include the money, it can include everything. I would like to see what the figures were before we start saying, yes, you can have 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 or whatever. I would rather not give somebody an amount and say, we've got £60,000, spend it. Because they'll all say we can do that for £60,000 or whatever.
We go back to what we've said before. The ESPO template asks us to stipulate the budget.
It does, you're right.
If you don't want that to happen, Stephen, it has to happen.
No, the ESPO template says you must state a budget, but then it says this budget can be increased or decreased depending on where it goes. So you put a budget in. If it comes in more, we have the conversation about whether we fund it or not, or whether a specification gets altered. That's where we go. It doesn't matter what the budget is; they'll price the specification.
Peter, do you mind just can you just pull up the brief where you've got the funding template for the Mooga and you've got the funding template for the children's play area?
Is that on your document?
That's on the brief. That's Is it?
Sandra, I've got the document here, the whole document, and I have read through that in detail. So I know what that says, and it's a fairly standard framework document that you give a budget and it can go up or down, depending on what prices come back.
So what Peter has done on paper B1 draft brief is 0.7 funding in that box there. It says section 106 open space fund park and gardens, and it says £65,000 to be spent on landscaping, past surfacing. And then when you scroll down again, to the next funding thing, wherever it is, I've looked at it. Six on the Mooga one, section 106, it just simply states 105,711.
Yeah, on the budget thing program, I've got 7 funding budget. Section 106 open space, £65,000 on 2 pounds. Then it's got a load of stuff for earmarked reserves. I can't see what that has got to do with somebody quoting. A budget's a budget. You don't have to give them a build of how we get to a budget.
Because if they turn around and say, we've got £70,000 to spend, they will create something to £70,000, right? And so, and if we say, well, actually, we've got a little bit more money, they'll go, oh, well, if we knew that, then we would have done this. This is the 3rd time that we've mentioned this. I think we just need to be honest with the budget that we've got. I don't understand the secrecy of not telling them, honestly, what money we've got. If we say we've only got £5 to spend at the butcher's, we're going to get 2 pork chops. If we say that we've got, actually, do you know what, I've got £20 in my back pocket, then they're going to give us a side of venison then, aren't they? What's the point of sending out stuff to 5 or 8 companies? They all work their backsides off to come up with these designs, and we go, yeah, actually, we've got a bit more money than that. I just don't know. It's just not right. It's not even ethical to do that. If you say to someone, we have got £105,000, they will make sure that we get the best for £105,000.
They'll make sure they give you a price for £105,000. But hang on, Stuart.
They have.
Thank you. If I can just come in, Sandra. We had this discussion at length at the last meeting. We seem to be going in circles with this, and we're making no progress. My view is I agree with Stephen. I think I said this last time. If you stick in a top amount, that's what they will work to. I understand what you're saying, and you're saying that if you don't say we've got this amount of money, you might get a lower spec. But what Stephen has reiterated here is the spec is the spec. You give them the spec, and that is what they work to. If all the quotes come back and say we can't meet that budget, then we can adjust accordingly. But I don't agree that we go in with the top amount and allow them to work freely to that. It's just not right. And we had this discussion at length last time. We haven't moved on from this. I'm loath to have the same discussion each time without making any progress. What is it we're asked to consider here? How are we moving this on at this point?
I mean, my thoughts are, at the moment, we've been asked to comment on the draft specifications by the 11th. And I think that's what we should do. And then we bring it back to the next meeting where the recommendations have been put forward to the working group. Jackie.
The question was, initially when we talked about the reserve, that we thought it would need to be used for the fence, and our question tonight, or my question tonight, is if we don't need it for the fence, in principle, can we use it for the play area? Even whether we put it in the budget from the beginning or the end, I don't know. But in principle, can we use it? And whose decision is that we can use it or not?
It's the council's decision. It's not
Okay.
it's not my decision. It's not yours, Sandra's, or whatever. But we need to have figures to base it on.
So you're suggesting that the work that we've done so far, which says actually to get the equipment that we need, we are going to need some more money. You're not accepting that, even though
No,
we've
I'm not.
research on it.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if people price the scheme up or price the specification up that you're giving them, and it comes in at say £60,000 and we've got 65,000, that's fine. If it comes in at £80,000, then we look at it and we say, right, we need another £15,000. Do as the council want to spend that? If the answer is yes, then we spend £80,000.
If I could say, Chair,
Yes,
please.
sorry, Kevin, yeah.
Jacket, I fully understand where you're coming from, and that's the bit where I'm talking about, show me the specification. Because if you said, and Sandra's saying it as well, for this equipment you've got to spend 30,000, right? For the play equipment. But I've not seen what you get for 30,000. If you say it's a slide, it's a roundabout, then I sort of can get my head round it. But I understand how it's made up. I understand then if a Muga costs this. I understand if a fence costs this. I understand if lighting costs this. Because that's how we work. So I get what you're saying, but I haven't seen a detailed specification. That's the bit I'm missing. And that's what...
You all have. You have actually seen a document from Compan maybe a year ago, I think about probably a year ago. It was like Wiro bound, and it had it listed. They gave us two versions, a premium version and a budget version. They actually listed all of the equipment and the price of that piece of equipment and the price that it would cost to install it. So actually, you have every single councillor has actually seen.
But that's a year ago. That can be attached to this specification.
Yeah.
Hang on, it
But
can be
gives you an
attached.
idea of how much the equipment has cost, and this is where Jackie and I are coming from, because we looked at that spec and we've gone, right, that's how much that equipment costs, and it costs £35,000. This is where Jackie and I are coming from. We know, we haven't plucked that number out of the air. We've gone through the price list provided to us by Compan, and for those pieces of equipment, 16 pieces of equipment, it's in and around £35,000. That is where we've got that money from. What I suggest we do, okay, is that you all go off, come back by the 11th of January, feed back to the working group. We'll see if anything needs changing. And it seems as though that what you all want to see is for the brief to go out with the caveat of there is no planning permission sought yet, so it may not happen. Right, 8 companies come back and say this is what we're going to do, and this is the money that you're giving us, so this is what you're going to get. We all sit there and go, actually, we've actually got twice as much money. We then pack it all back off to the 8 companies and go, redo all the work because actually we've got more money. And then they all come back 4 weeks later. This isn't going to happen for July, by the way. This is not going to happen for this July. This will happen for 2022. Because planning permission alone is 8 weeks. We've now delayed this 4 weeks.
Well, I don't think we've delayed planning permission, Sandra, because they haven't got show the specification where you're going to put the lights. That's what Daventry will say. So we haven't done anything.
Okay, so we're now all going around in circles. I thought we'd agreed, okay, that we've got to the 11th of January to
make comments.
feedback.
Yeah, fair enough. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Happy? Well, probably not happy, but that's what we'll do for councillors to make their comments to Peter by the 11th.
But I just do want to finish this off by saying that those companies, whether you like it or not, are not going to be impressed when they find out that actually we hid the true amount of money from them.
We haven't hid a true amount of money.
Yes, you have, because you're telling them that we've only got X amount when in fact we've got Y amount.
We might have Y amount.
It's not been agreed by the council yet.
No.
You might have more.
So we make comments to Peter by the 11th, and let's move on.
What about the other recommendations, Chair? Are those not accepted? That the financial issues be incorporated into the budget meeting at the end of January?
Well, that's too late, because we're putting forward, we've already gone through the budget, and there was no comments made about the budget.
So when I say the budget, it's I assume we'll consider the reserves that evening as well.
No, because I think the reserves will depend on the schemes that come back, the cost of the schemes. So it's getting back to the. I think we already said last month that the reserves we would look at once we had the figures. And nothing's really changed, I don't think.
Right, so just for clarity, the only recommendation is comments back by the 11th of Jan and the council notes the report.
Yeah.
Chair, can I make a suggestion, please?
So, Tom, yes, where are you?
Sorry, because of the situation we seem to be finding ourselves in, that Peter actually circulates a memo to all the councillors, those who obviously aren't attending tonight, with a specific reminder that this particular document be commented on by that date, because what you don't want to happen is that the minutes come out and people, particularly those who aren't able to attend today's meeting, don't be given the opportunity or the incentive to actually make constructive comments on this brief. That's the only way you're going to move this forward, really, is to review the comments by the 11th and then take it from there.
I'll do that.
Could I have a copy of because obviously I've lost it. Could I have a copy of the com plan as well, please?
The one from a year ago.
Pardon?
The one from a year ago.
Please.
Yeah. Well, between Peter and I, we can make sure you've got the latest ones, because they did a few changes. Is that all right, Peter?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I think just for consistency, Chair, if I may suggest that whatever Peter recirculates or does circulate, it's full and complete, rather than assuming that.
Oh, yeah, you'll get all 68 pages.
Lovely.
Yeah, to everybody, yeah.
I'm not sure if it's 68, it might be 28. It's more than that.
So, really, having dealt with paper B, we've dealt with B1 as well, because that's the one we're going to make comments on.
So can I have a proposal for that, Chair, that it comes back?
Okay. I propose that we make comments by the 11th to the clerk, and that includes anything to do with funding, and also a copy of Complan's quotation from roughly a year ago. It's sent to all councillors, and a notice sent round reminding everyone that it's to be comments by the 11th of January.
Can I just clarify something? Sorry, Stephen. You started talking about reserves and stuff like that. Are you saying that there's a possibility that, because obviously we're going to the new financial year, are you saying that there's a possibility that the reserves of in and around £40,000 which I call them surplus reserves, may not be available.
No.
Okay,
No, I haven't said that.
No.
No.
No, the reserves are the reserves.
Yeah,
Nothing's been allocated. Nothing's been allocated to it. What we do, what you're doing, sorry, not me, you. It doesn't affect the budget at all in one iota because it's sat there.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted
Sorry,
to sure. Thank you.
So, do we have a second for the proposal?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah. Against? Abstentions? Go, Peter.
Yes, that's carried. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, item 7 is the Community Centre Indoor Sports Working Group, which is paper C.
That's almost old and report, Chair, because the situation is we're trying to get all the as-built drawings and information together before progressing it.
Okay.
Sorry, I've got my hands up.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry,
Jackie.
just to say that I did find a company that do the whole process, floors, like everything. And I did send the information to you, Peter, to ask if you could organise a Zoom meeting, a Teams meeting.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Because Mike particularly was keen to have a company in that knew everything rather than doing it piecemeal. So doing it the whole thing together. So I think that's a good starting point. Yeah.
Yes, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple of recommendations. One that we note in the report, and the second one is to approve the terms of reference.
That's the terms.
Sorry, Chair, the terms of reference hadn't been circulated, so I need to circulate those round. Can we defer the terms of reference till the next meeting?
Yeah, is everyone happy for those to be deferred?
Yes.
I mean, basically, they mirror what we've already done for the Mooga and Play Park.
Yeah, I must admit that was how I read it, so
yes.
I assumed it was going to be the same.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. Okay, item 8 is Legal Assets Working Group, which is paper D. There's 3 recommendations. One, that Parish Council notes the reports of the working group. 2, assist to be appointed to progress the cricket club lease based on a 25-year term. This really follows on from Shoesmith's providing us with an exorbitant quote. They now only want to work for major corporate clients. So I think we ought to start looking to use a more local solicitor. Could even be Bates Wells, I don't know. But I think we ought to ask Peter to look into that to see if he can obtain some quotations for preparing that lease. So on that one, I would propose that we ask Peter to obtain some quotations from somebody other than Shoesmith to obtain a quote for preparing the lease.
If that's a proposal, I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Tom. All those in favour?
Yes.
Yeah. That's everyone. Thank you very much.
Stephen?
Yeah.
I thought we were considering leaving Shoesmiths because they're just a little bit too big for us.
Well, that's basically what they've come back and said. They wanted £7,500 to basically do a copy of the lease that they've already done.
Yeah.
Which we thought was bloody ridiculous, to put it bluntly. And if it needs to be that we take everything away from Shoesmiths, then fine. Then that's the route we need to go down.
Okay.
We're not really there to grease their pocket. If they want to look after the big companies, then fine. There must be plenty of others who are willing to do this work.
So are we going to actively look for a replacement solicitor then? Yeah.
Well, we are on this one, and maybe as a secondary one, perhaps we ought to be looking to do that on general for everything.
Yes.
But I mean, initially it was to look at this lease. Maybe we could bring that as another agenda item next month, Peter, because we haven't got that down. And to move all the work.
Yes. Yeah.
From Shoesmiths.
Sorry, just a very quick add. I don't know if you all know, but I am actually a qualified solicitor, so I'd be happy to help Peter. Just my inside knowledge of firms, I completely agree. Shoesmiths is a very corporate firm, very national, similar to Shakespeare Martineau. So there's other firms that I would know that obviously I can say to Peter, and then he can put it all to you. So just thought I'd mention.
That's brilliant, Clara. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. The third point was Bateswell has been instructed to incorporate the additional comments into the draft Village Hall car park licence. And that was sort of really the discussion point under point 4.1 of the report. They've made some assumptions and we just clarified those. Sandra?
Have I got my hand up? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry. No,
Okay.
I've got it now. Sorry.
So I propose that we instruct Bateswells to proceed with the Village Hall car park draft car park lease, so we can send that to the Village Hall. Do I have a second for that? Thank you, Elaine. All those in favour?
Yeah.
That's everyone. Thank you very much. Item 9 is to consider the financial transactions and authorise the payments for December, which is paper E.
And there is an additional payment that's just arrived today, Chair, which I've added to this list that's on the screen now, and that's the B&Q one for materials for £41.32. Everything else stays the same.
Are members happy to add that to the list to start with?
Yeah.
Okay, then can we have a proposal to pay the revised list?
I will.
Thanks, Jackie. The second?
Me.
Okay, thanks, Sandra. All those in favour of paying our bills?
Yeah.
Thank you, that's everyone. Thank you very much. Item 10 is highways, the urban grass cutting. Consider the opportunity to cut the highways verges for 2021 at an income of £1,371.23p, which is paper F. Does anybody have any comments on that?
No. Was it last year?
Yeah.
How much was it last year, Stephen?
I think it was perhaps a couple of percent less, but nothing. I think it was just round about the £1,300 mark, so I think it's just gone for Tom.
So a quick question, Chair. This is purely grass cutting, isn't it? Not the maintenance of the verges.
No.
It's the grass cutting.
Yes, just grass cutting, yeah.
So there'd be no liability on the Parish Council or any possible damage to the verges that may be the County Council's responsibility.
Yes, all we do is cut the grass within the 30-mile-an-hour area.
Okay, fine.
And the fee, it's stood still for as long as I've been at Brixworth. It's never changed. So in reality, it's diminishing in real terms.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because we're having more verges, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, with inflation year on year, it's worth less, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Peter, does this figure now include the ashway? If that's been adopted, does it include that?
I don't know if Mark's been cutting or not. I did tell him to start. I mean, I need to check that. I mean, basically it should, because it's all grass areas within the 30-mile-an-hour area. So in theory, yes, whatever they adopt, we have to take on.
But we don't do the Saxon Wise estate, do we?
No, that's private management company.
Sandra?
As it hasn't increased, can we actually ask for more money, because we're taking on more responsibility? I mean, I just think that they should at least be increasing it by the rate of inflation every year, like a landlord does, increases the rent by the rate of inflation every year. And it's, you know, it's in real terms, as you say, well, this is actually becoming less and less money for us. And now with the adoption of several streets in the Ashway, we're taking on more and more responsibility. There's going to come a point where we need to have a second groundsman, and £1,300 isn't going to pay for a second groundsman, is it? No,
I think we took the view when we first started doing this that I think the county council were cutting it 3 or 4 times a year, and then if we took it, we could maintain it a lot better. We cut it, I don't know, probably 8 to 10 times. So it really it was benefiting us as a community rather than leaving it to the county council.
But is there any harm in just asking for a little bit more money? If you don't ask, you don't get, do you?
No.
We could contact the county councillor.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's almost a bit cheeky, because they're sending it out for next fiscal year, and they're not even going to be in charge of it, are they? County council. Kevin, do you know if there's been any discussions on the unitary about things like this?
If there has, Chair, it's at the bottom of the list, I would imagine. I don't think you're going to get another penny on this at all. I mean, that's my view. Might be totally wrong, but I don't think there's a chance of getting anything out of them at the moment. Really don't. But ask the county councillor to ask the question.
Do we as council want to go back and ask for more money because we're looking after more roads or more footpaths and verges?
What, Peter to do that?
Yeah, I mean, do we want him to go and do that?
I do.
Is it worth just asking whether or not this will be index linked?
I guess that's something the county council couldn't answer because they won't be responsible. So I don't know.
Can we just ask the question?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah. Peter, can you ask the question?
Yes, no problem. Yeah.
we don't need to approve it today or reject it. So, is everyone quite happy to defer this following see what Peter can get out of the county council?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Do we need to have a vote or anything?
Sorry, Sandra.
Do we vote on something like this?
If it's been deferred, there's no need to vote on it.
Do we need to? Okay, and we don't need to vote on asking you.
No.
No, it's a straightforward action. I'll just drop an email and I'll just say it's been deferred to January meeting, where we must make a decision because I think that's the deadline for the form going back. I think.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, yeah.
Right, back to the agenda. Right, part 2 is for information only. Again, going back to finance, point 11, paper G is the rolling budget. Everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Paper H is the bank reconciliation report. Everyone happy with that?
Yep.
And paper I is the statement of Parish Council's reserves. Yeah, everyone happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
Item 12, community safety. Point 1 is to note the reported crime data for Brixworth 2020. This is paper J.
Can I make a comment, Chair?
You can certainly make.
I attended the Police and Crime Commissioner presentation on Monday, and I received today the slides of the PowerPoint, which I'll send to Peter. Maybe worth that can just be circulated to the councillors. It just sets out the initiatives that are currently being considered by the police and emergency services by way of resources, future planning, budgets and manpower. That's a brief summary of what it is, but it might make it interesting reading as to what they're currently thinking in and what they're focusing on. So I'll send the PowerPoint to Peter, and he can at his leisure, or if you follow perhaps, circulate it to the fellow councillors.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I think Peter could do that. I don't know if anybody goes onto the actual website to explore this information more fully to get a better breakdown of where the crimes are.
I do. I'm always interested in this one.
Yeah, I must admit, I was sad enough to do it as well. And it does make sense.
It's good to see that Swan's Nest has got a clean bill of health for a few days anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the violence and the sexual offences ones that seem to be leading the way. To have that broken down a bit more would be good, but we're never going to get that to happen, are we? So
I think you'll find when you look at the PowerPoint, you'll see there is an increase as a consequence of COVID and people being furloughed and frustrations and mental anxiety that is sweeping across the country. There's been a marked increase in those types of crime.
yeah, I think I'd read somewhere about 15%, but that could have been anything, I suppose. Everyone quite happy to receive that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Point 2 is to note the data downloads from the speed indicator device, which is paper J as well. First part is the number of cars, and these are the number of cars over a 2-week period. just to highlight that to everybody. So all those figures need, anything for Monday needs halving to get an accurate figure for each Monday, and so on. The reason it's 2 weeks, obviously, because we've got an early meeting this week, so it's normally for a 4-week period. And the next paper is the number of speeders. Again, that's placed over a 2-week period. Everyone quite happy to receive those?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, item 13 is planning. Point 1 is to receive the planning decisions for November 2020, which is paper K. Everyone quite happy with that one?
More than happy.
Yeah, got them all right, didn't we, for once?
Yeah.
It's good to see that Daventry are thinking as we do.
And point 2 is to receive the minutes of the planning committee of the 16th of November, which is paper L. Everyone quite happy to receive that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Item 14 is media and communications. To receive the minutes of the media and communications committee of the 11th of November, which is paper M. Everyone quite happy with that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Item 15 is Parish Clerk's report, which is paper N. Any comments, or everyone okay with that one?
Yeah. I've just got, sorry, Peter. I've just got an interesting comment there, because Peter, you've said that at sometime in the next few months you sort of see it going back to normal. I mean, obviously, I think the Zoom meetings or team meetings or whatever are working. Will we be legally obliged to actually meet face to face once everything has calmed down, or can we opt to continue having Zoom meetings, or can we do a mixture? Can some attend via Teams and some attend in the meeting room?
All I know is that there's some people lobbying to maintain Teams meetings in the future beyond the statutory deadline. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a mix and match, to be honest, in the future.
Yeah.
Because I say there is pressure to modernise the business, because I think it's pushed everybody onto the next level with the technology and electronic papers, and
yeah,
it's probably, I think it's probably done a lot of good, to be honest, and it hasn't held people back, because we've had just as many people attend these meetings as we had when we met in the Olive Branch.
Yeah.
And particularly in the winter when people don't want to come out.
Yeah, and I think like with the Red Lion thing, as Jonathan will know, you know, because that was done via Teams. I mean, how many people attended that meeting from the public? I mean, it was tens and tens and tens, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure which meeting you mean, Sandra, but I mean
when it went to when we were listening to the Red Lion.
Yeah, when it was broadcast live. Yeah, I think there was about 800 at peak viewing time at the planning committee meeting in June. Yeah. Where on earth they all came from, I have no idea, but I believe that was the number.
Yeah, which is fantastic, really, isn't it? So. And also, from a personnel point of view, it certainly helps Peter not having to hand deliver paperwork. It's saving on our clerk's time as well.
And it saves on travelling time, travelling costs. And particularly in the winter as well, with the bad roads, it takes the risk out of that as well. There's a lot of bonuses, but whether the government will do that, we just need to see, really.
Okay.
Well, it goes through to the end of March at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, around that time, yeah. I can see it being extended to fall into line with the vaccination programme, I would guess.
Okay.
That'll be for another year then.
Well, yeah, well, they've said 2022 for completion, haven't they? Yeah.
Same as the area.
Any other comments? No. Okay, item 16 is general correspondence. Just paper O for people to read at their leisure. Item 17 is dates of future meetings. Planning 4th of January. Media and communications on the 13th of January. Finance meeting with the council on the 14th of January. Planning committee on the 25th of January. And full council on the 28th of January. So a busy few weeks there. Alright, moving on to part 3. Item 18 is to consider the exclusion of the press and public. We have got items under item 19, so I would propose we look to exclude press and public. Bye, Jonathan.
Bye, Jonathan.
Have a good Christmas break. I'm sure I'll see you wandering around, everyone. Take care.
And you, mate. Okay, thanks very much. Cheers, bye. I propose that we exclude press and public.
Chairman, may I also wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, somewhat better than we've had, and I will bid you adieu as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick, and the same to you.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Have you set the recording going again?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay, just to report on the legal matters, it was just an update given no decisions were made, and we'll now move on to item 20, which is urgent matters for report only. I've not been notified of anything. Have you, Peter?
No, I haven't, Chair, no.
Okay, I therefore declare the meeting closed, and happy Christmas to you all and best wishes for the new year, and as Nick said, let's hope it's better than this year. But thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye, everyone. Have a good time.
Bye.
Bye.